Hi there, my name is Davison and I wanted to speak about the controversial trailer for the film Cuties. So to give you a bit of backstory, this is a film called Cuties that first premiered at Sundance and then it was snapped up by Netflix. And it is controversial because in the film's visual material or in its marketing, there were pictures of very young women in dance attire posed in what appears to be sexually provocative ways. So there's an uproar on the internet because it seems like a lot of people think that this film is pedo material and encouraging the abuse or maybe the grooming of young teenage girls. But it's a question of perhaps mixed messages and improper marketing. So I'm going to first voice my opinion about the film. So to summarize the film, I'm reading an excerpt from an article by Casper Salmon in The Guardian. He wrote, "The film is about Amy, an 11-year-old Senegalese Muslim who's torn between the traditional values of her background and a group of rebellious young girls, and it is a coming-of-age film." So what coming-of-age films are is when one transitions from a child or an adolescent into an adult, and we get to witness that transformation throughout the course of the work, be it a work of fiction or in this case a film. And I, as a human being, am very open-minded and critical, as you can see by my shirt. And I watched the trailer and I honestly was not offended by it, and I'm going to explain why. As I just explained, the film's outrage is taking the film out of its context, and it's basically reacting to parts of the film without considering the whole. As well, there's taboo in our society about adolescent sexuality that we do need to explore. While adults should never participate in adolescent sexuality, no adults and kids should sexually interact. The fact of the matter is that between the ages of puberty and say age 20, adolescents are very sexual and they're going through a very rapid period of growth in their sexual development and their sexual orientations and their sexualization, which is where it gets a little dicey. So there's always been problems in society when people become outraged and try to control sexuality, because it's the most powerful, I would say, having gone through it, powerful period of our lives in terms of our sexual development. And it's mismanaged by well-intentioned but chiding adults who often have the baggage of religion, which this film depicts, because the young woman in the film, Amy, is a Senegalese Muslim. So not only is she a young woman confronting her sexual development and her independence as a teenager in French society, but she's also navigating the demands of her conservative culture. I think the film seems like it's going to be profound and beautiful, and it won awards already. It was critically acclaimed at Sundance, and then that doesn't happen that easily. And it's unfortunate that Netflix's marketing alienated a lot of people, and it's unfortunate, let's be clear, that women's sexuality is always seen as problematic in almost any society worldwide, and there's always a movement to control that sexuality. Now, some people will argue that it's pandering to the patriarchy by sexualizing yourself as a woman. Other people like me might argue that occupying your sexual power is one of the strongest things one can do as a woman, and it sort of fights the patriarchy and says, you don't get to own this, you don't get to tell me what I can do with this, this is a part of me and I will use it as I wish. And I want to extend that grace to teenagers. They are allowed to explore their sexuality. They are allowed to explore twerking. They are allowed to do it amongst their peers. Let us be clear. No adults and kids should interact. Not for that. But teenager to teenager, it exists. It always happens. It's a very curious period in a child's life, or a teen's life. Let's not even call them children. In a teenager's life. So why not make a film about it? And the film, I think, is loosely autobiographical. The director's name is, let me find her name. Sorry. Her name is Maïmouna Doucouré. And if I mispronounced her name, I apologize. And her short film, by the way, Maman, won a César in 2017, which is a major filmic prize in France. So this is not a film that is directed by a hack. This is a film directed by a feminist Black woman. And I think we should, basically question whether or not we should be so vehemently opposed to it. And if maybe the point of the film is that coming of age as a teenage girl and confronting one's sexuality is challenging and is rife with internalized misogyny and is complicated by the patriarchy and social media and religion. And if we will just stop our moral outrage, maybe we could learn something from the film and have it be a discussion piece as instead of a piece of outrage. So my name is Davison. I have not made a reaction video on this channel in a long time because I had a brain infection and now I have a seizure disorder. So this is, it's kind of miraculous that I'm even able to voice my opinions because I almost died this year. I know that's outside of everything we just discussed. I will be watching the film. And one thing that I will say though, the title Cuties is kind of an unfortunate translation, but it is powerful. So it kind of does work because it is marketing the film, because it's like, how dare you call these young girls dressed, in attire that seems older than their age, how dare you call them cuties? It works in terms of it being kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? In terms of it being kind of powerful, in not necessarily a good way. But in French, the title is Mignonnes, and the translation of it is a little bit more subtle. So I think a little bit of the subtlety was lost in the film's translation. Mignonne is more like adorable, but in a good way, instead of cuties, which is kind of like, hey, cutie pie, which kind of is just has the connotation is a little bit problematic there. So, and I will leave you with no adult should ever interact in a sexual way with a child. Thank you very much. That I want to really underline that, lest you think I think that that's acceptable. I just think that adolescent sexuality exists. We should be able to make a film about its coming of age, and we shouldn't constantly be chastising women about the exploration and development of their sexuality and its application or use in our culture. Thank you. Ciao. Subscribe if you want to follow me recover from a brain infection and voice my opinions.